crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis, Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with host David Lamb and the attorneys of Hollis, Wright.
Hello and welcome into the attorneys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and joining us each and every Sunday evening. We really consider it a privilege to be here with you on each and every Sunday night, trying to make sense of some legal matters. That's the goal tonight as well, a topic of conversation that we think will matter to you. A couple of ground rules, just in case this is your first time with us, at the bottom of your screen, ways you can call, text, email, get in touch with us during the show and then even after the show. 844-LAW-TALK is just the number to know anytime. That's how you can get in touch with Hollis, Wright. And there are a couple of cool things that the firm makes available. You can join our conversation. The show's always better when you do, but Hollis, Wright makes available attorneys who are standing by right now. It's a live, free, off-air, and confidential conversation, and is yours for the asking. All you have to do is pick up the phone, give them a call, or text them either way, 844-LAW-TALK. A privilege tonight. It's I think it was Grover Washington Jr. had that song, Just the Two of Us. It's just the two of us. That's it, yeah.
There's nothing
You're an
wrong
old
with that.
DJ. I'm sure you played that song.
Racking them, stacking them, packing them, right?
It.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're just glad to be doing shows during COVID and trying to be respectful and do the social distancing that's required and necessary. But we also want to make sure that we're giving back to the community during this time, right? It's so easy just to go in your office and not want to get out there and really have to do a lot. But we decided it was time to start taping some shows again, and we're just real excited to do that and be able to give something back. It's our way to give back to the community to answer stuff for free. Yeah,
and the thing about it, especially with and there are many businesses, many vocations where you can't just shut it down. In your line of work, you know, bad things still happen to people, and folks still need attorneys and need some good, sound legal advice.
Well, you know, and what's interesting is courts have started opening back up. There were restrictions on jury trials. All that's changing, and we're back trying cases again. And, you know, as we have courts open back up, litigation continues. So the way I kind of look at it is, you know, litigation is a conduit that you file cases and stick them in the conduit, and they ultimately come out. You know, you either win a case, you try a case, settle a case, or lose a case, right? So there are a lot of things that can happen. But what happened during the slowdown with COVID was things just got bogged up inside that conduit, and now the conduit's opening back up. So we've got to aggressively work cases, and at the same time, we're also trying to make sure that we're giving back to answer questions that impact individuals. I mean, a good example is tonight's show. We're talking about commercial vehicles and the heightened standard that commercial drivers have in today's world when they operate a vehicle, different than what you and I do. There are 500,000 accidents a year involving commercial vehicles. A third of those accidents involve some type of impairment, whether it's alcohol, drug related, or whether it's fatigue. So, you know, these are very prevalent. And then think about, for example, the viewing audience. You've got I-20, I-65, you've got the new you know, interchanges downtown. We see a tremendous amount of commercial vehicle related accidents. And so we like to do this show consistently to make sure that we're answering questions that people may have related to these type issues. Right. So we're glad to be back and doing this, though.
And
just the two of us
as well. It's just us. We'll take it from here. I'll just pepper you with questions here. Starting off, tell us first of all, specifically dealing with the topic and the subject matter of trucking companies. What laws govern a trucking company and a trucker's conduct?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. When you and I leave tonight and we go operate our vehicle, we are subject to standard rules of the road. You've got obligations and responsibilities, I do too, to be reasonable in following street signage, follow lights, not speed, all those things. We have responsibilities. Commercial vehicle operators have the same responsibilities, but they have what we call heightened standards too. There is a federal regulation called the FMCSA that applies a series of regulations that increases the requirement that a commercial vehicle has different than you and I.
Okay.
And then even Alabama has some rules under the Public Service Commission guidelines for those commercial vehicles that only travel inside Alabama. So the federal regulations generally apply to commercial vehicle companies that travel interstate from our state to another, which is a lot of the time what you see with commercial drivers. And then the Public Service Commission also has some rules. But those are really heightened standards, and we can unwrap that a little bit as we move into it. What I can tell you is this. Commercial vehicles come in a lot of shapes and colors and sizes, right? People just think, well, this is a trucking show, and that's not the case at all. Let me give you a couple easy examples.
Okay.
If you travel to and from Atlanta on one of those shuttles that takes you to the airport, a lot of people do that. That's a commercial vehicle. They're subject to commercial regulations. If you have a local vending company that delivers local vending supplies, maybe just in the state of Alabama, very likely they're going to have a DOT regulatory number, and they're also going to be subject to certain rules and guidelines that fall under commercial vehicles. If you bus to and from the VA to a hospital, those vehicles that bus individuals generally are subject to the same commercial standards that other commercial vehicles. And then, of course, we have tractor trailers and
Right.
Bobcat and also have, trucks that haul wood around and all those things, the stuff we all see on the road. So the commercial industry falls in a lot of different categories.
Yeah. Does it really have more to do with the size of the vehicle? Is that the determining factor?
Well, so the regulations generally will apply across the board to those that have a company that operates commercial vehicles and applies to the individuals. However, you make a fair point. And or you kind of question there. There are different regulations for different things you haul. For example, if you're hauling individuals, under 6 individuals, you may have one regulation that applies to you. If you're hauling passengers greater than 6, up to 18, you have a different set of rules. If you have more than 18, a different set of rules. If you're hauling just freight, what about if you're hauling cargo that is ultra hazardous?
Right.
So there are a series of regulations that apply to all those different circumstances. And I'll tell you this, it's one of the reasons you want to get a lawyer involved early, because each of those areas requires a different type of litigation. Same principles, but a different lawyer to be able to manage those cases correctly.
Right. Real quickly before we head to break, a question we got here. How long do I have to file a lawsuit if I'm hurt in a trucking accident?
So the general answer to that is 2 years. There are a couple exceptions, but for the most part, you got 2 years to file a suit. But as we can talk about in the next break, because I know we're getting ready to go to break, after the break's over, we want to talk about the concept that you want to get someone on the ground quickly, because a lot of these commercial vehicles, whether they're hauling individuals around or they're hauling freight, they have fast action crews that are out there evaluating the circumstances, downloading black boxes, taking pictures, talking with officers, witnesses, trying to make sure that they craft a defense in the case. And we want to talk about that, maybe unwrap it a little bit more on the other side of the break.
We'll jump into that coming up. True or false? You all just gave away a Yeti on social media? Is that
with supplies
full
in
of
the
snacks,
Yeti. Yeah,
huh?
we got this awesome lady named Melissa Beatty,
She's
who is our
incredible.
marketing director at our firm, and she's always real close to the show and is involved in our giveaways. We've given some iPads away and some other things. She's always coming up with some concept.
So not only social media, a great educational, informational resource, you literally could be a winner
100%.
By following. So do that. Check out,
100%.
just search Hollis Wright. You can find them all over social media on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It really is a lot of great information, but some cool giveaways as well. So check them out there, Hollis Wright on social media. Stay tuned. We are coming right back.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis Wright, a personal injury law firm, and thank you for watching The Attorneys. We hope you, a friend, or a loved one never needs legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of the show is simple: to provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free and off air. So if you have questions specific to the show or related to other accident or injury topics, call, email, or text us. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, or go to hollis-wright.com and click on the Contact Us button. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us and watching The Attorneys.
If you sustain an on-the-job injury, it can devastate you and your family. That's when you need the help of Hollis Wright. Our attorneys are right here in Birmingham and have decades of experience representing injured victims. We have handled on-the-job injury cases in every county throughout this great state and would be proud to help you. If you've been injured in an accident, always make Hollis Wright the first law firm you call. At Hollis Wright, results matter.
Welcome back in to The Attorneys. Appreciate you being with us. Don't forget the opportunity for you to join our conversation. That info all at the bottom of your screen. Joined by Managing Partner Josh Wright from Hollis Wright. So all the time people want to know the whole thing of attorneys standing by. You guys, as we speak, while you are here talking, if folks will call, text 844-LAW-TALK, they can get with an attorney?
Yeah, so, what we do is we scroll across the bottom of the screen, and you see it tonight. The text number, there's a call number, you can email, you can hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, etc. And we have lawyers standing by. We are not critical in any respect of other competitive shows that are at the same time slot that take live callers at all. In fact, some of the guys that do it locally in Birmingham are really close friends of mine. Right. I love those guys. We decided to do it just a little bit different. We felt like it was a better approach for our law firm to be able to have people have a private conversation with a lawyer and not have to be on air to ask their question. And then they can ask any legal related issue. And here's the deal. If we are talking about trucking like we are tonight or commercial vehicles and someone has a probate related question, if they want to call, we may not have someone that is going to be able to answer each element of the question, but we're going to be able to do a pretty good job of answering the question and saying, hey, look, maybe on Monday morning we can get you with one of our probate lawyers who can answer those questions. So we have the ability to direct people to the right lawyer at our law firm if we can't directly handle it tonight. But the short of it is, folks are standing by, and you're going to get a response from a live lawyer tonight if they've got questions.
Really, really cool. Yep. And a lot of folks take advantage of that, so thank you for doing so. All right, back to our conversation about the trucking companies. A question we've got here, are trucking companies required to carry insurance for accidents?
Yeah, so they're mandated to carry it through those federal regulations we talked about. And as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of different types of commercial vehicles, right? From those hauling individuals to those hauling freight to those hauling hazardous material. And there is a different insurance requirement for each of those. You could have anywhere from $750,000 of insurance coverage up to $5 million and even sometimes greater than that under certain circumstances. But they're mandated to carry insurance. The federal government does a good job through its various agencies making sure that people actually carry insurance. Unlike we have, unfortunately, in Alabama, where we have 25% of the individuals on the road that are supposed to have car insurance don't have car insurance. The federal government does a very good job of mandating that people have insurance if they're going to operate a commercial vehicle.
Do you think truckers are treated differently than folks like me and you who just drive regular vehicles? Are they treated different?
I think so. David, we get, whenever we do these shows, we get a lot of calls and texts from commercial drivers that say, hey, look, I'm doing it the right way. And you know what? They're probably right. Yeah. There are a lot of these accidents that are caused from individuals that aren't subject to the federal regulations, guys like me and you driving vehicles that cause the accidents and contribute to the accidents. And there are a lot of times when I sit down with clients and talk to them and say, hey, look, that's your fault. It's not the commercial vehicle's fault. Not every accident involving a commercial vehicle is the commercial vehicle driver's fault. What we're doing is we're evaluating these cases based on the totality of the circumstances, and we're trying to make sure that the trucking company's not doing it the right way, are handled in litigation. Those that are doing it the right way, those claims often just go away. And so I do think they're held to a different standard. But you know what? They're supposed to be held to a different standard. Let me give you a couple examples. Did you know, David, that a commercial vehicle driver is required to have a physical to show whether he has high blood pressure, he has the potential for passing out or having syncope episodes or a seizure? They've got to have physicals. Did you know that they have a responsibility when they're hired to have a background check done on them? And during the application process, they have to identify all previous commercial jobs that they had, and the company hiring them has a responsibility to search and determine a little bit about that person's driving record and their driving history. Those are things that you and I don't have, and our teenagers don't have, right? That if my kid has, an accident, he's not subject to a requirement that he's got to disclose that to everybody, but a commercial vehicle driver does. So there are some heightened standards that protect those that are driving around commercial vehicles that the commercial operators have to follow.
Are the trucking companies responsible for the actions of their drivers?
Yeah, so that's a complicated answer. Let me give you the short answer, and then I'm going to give you a little bit longer answer. The short answer is generally yes, if the driver is operating in the line and scope of his authority. That's a legal term, but he's operating for the company at the time of the accident. That's the short answer. The long answer is these cases have to be properly evaluated by a lawyer, and if they're not, people can run into certain pitfalls that can impact whether there's insurance coverage or not. For example, you've heard this concept of an owner-operator, right? So an owner-operator is an entrepreneur that says, hey, look, I want to drive a commercial vehicle, but I want to be my own boss, and I'm going to haul other people's freight, but I'm going to own my own vehicle, I'm going to manage my own insurance, and I'm going to determine my own routes. And then I'm going to freelance myself out to various companies, and I'm going to haul their freight around for them, okay? You could imagine if this individual is an independent contractor working for hauling freight for another company, there are some interesting agency and legal issues there, whether or not that person is technically the agent and the representative of the freight he's hauling or for his own company. And so getting a lawyer involved is super important in those cases to make sure that you navigate through who's responsible and what potential insurance is applicable.
Why do you think, or do you believe it's important if you're involved in an accident with a commercial vehicle, is it more important maybe to get legal counsel involved quickly?
It is. The technology in commercial vehicles today, we're not just talking about tractor trailers, we're talking about, in vans that are hauling people or local distributors and vendors that are hauling stuff around town. There are cameras, black boxes, crews that come out and do evaluations. You need to get someone involved because you've got to gather that information to determine who is the contributing cause to this accident? Who is the contributing cause to that injury, or in the unfortunate circumstance of death where you only have one person's side of the story? We've had plenty of accidents and circumstances where someone passes away, unfortunately, at the hands of a commercial vehicle, and the driver of the commercial vehicle said they did nothing wrong, where the forensics that we download from the vehicle or video or eyewitnesses that we jumped on quickly are able to paint a more appropriate picture of actually what happened and who was at fault.
I know we're about to go to break, but are the first 24, 48 hours, are those super crucial even in these accidents?
Critical. They are even more critical than a traditional car accident case because there's technology. There are liability-based crews that go out for the commercial vehicles. to do an evaluation quickly, you need someone on your side to protect you. And by the way, most of these accidents are going to involve experts. You want someone that's going to bring an expert to the table where you don't have to pay for it unless you're successful in the case, so that you have the same quality of legal service that the other side has.
Yeah, no need to go it alone with this. All right, we are stepping aside. Our final break of the evening. As we do so, reminder, would love to have you join the conversation. Just a few minutes remaining, though, for you to do so. So join our conversation. Stay tuned. We're coming back. The final segment of The Attorneys coming right up.
I'm attorney Carter Clay with Hollis, Wright Law Firm. If you've ever been involved in a civil lawsuit or been a witness to an accident, then you may have been asked to give deposition testimony. In this week's Legal 411, we are answering the question, what is a deposition and why am I being asked to give one? Depositions involve the process of a person giving under oath testimony that is outside of court. The person giving deposition testimony is referred to as the deponent. Depositions are taken in the presence of a court reporter, and the court reporter records the testimony. After the deposition, the attorneys for the parties received a typed transcript that contains all the questions that were asked by the attorneys, as well as the answers given by the deponent. The purpose of taking depositions is to ensure that the attorneys for the parties have a full and complete understanding of the events giving rise to the lawsuit, as well as an understanding of the testimony that they can expect to hear from witnesses at trial. Another reason an attorney might want to get deposition testimony is that it allows the attorneys to better prepare for trial and to develop a strategy for presenting the case to a judge or a jury. At trial, the deposition testimony can be used in several ways. First, if a witness on the stand deviates from the deposition testimony, an attorney can use the deposition to impeach the witness. Also, if a witness forgets certain facts or events, the deposition can be used to refresh the witness's recollection. Finally, in some instances when a witness simply cannot attend trial, the trial judge has the authority to allow the deposition testimony to be read to the jury. If you are a party to a lawsuit and are requested to give deposition testimony, your attorney will likely spend a significant amount of time preparing you for the deposition process to put you at ease and make you feel comfortable. Please remember, your call, email, or text to the attorneys is free. All of us at Hollis Wright want to help answer your questions on real issues you face. Remember, a competent lawyer will respond to every question you send in. That's our pledge and promise to you. Thanks for watching The Attorneys on WVTM 13.
Welcome back into The Attorneys. Right at 5 minutes remaining in the show. If you want to take advantage of the opportunity to speak with attorneys from Hollis Wright who are standing by live, that number you see there on your screen, take advantage of that opportunity. About 5 minutes remaining here with Josh Wright, talking all about commercial accidents, trucking accidents, and the like. A question we've got here: why is a traffic accident involving a commercial truck likely to cause injury more than one involving just a passenger car? What's the difference there?
Well, you know, and that's not always the case, but generally you've got commercial vehicles weigh a lot more than passenger vehicles, so the damage is a lot more significant. In addition, you've generally got higher speeds because a lot of these accidents do relate to interstates. Again, not always the case.
Right.
But, you know, those are two factors that weigh into it. And so, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't mean you're not protected and safe in a regular passenger vehicle. But a lot of times what we find is the property damage and the personal injury is significantly greater in these commercial vehicle accident cases, which warrants really a more important evaluation of the medical side and the property side of your case at the same time.
Yeah. Your question, much more technical and complex, but I would just think it's the margin for error is just so much smaller with the size of some of these vehicles, you know?
Well, and there's no question. You've got, vehicles that weigh 80,000 pounds versus vehicles that weigh 3,000 or 4,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And, Dave, one of the things we talked about when I opened the show is there are 500,000 accidents a year, and that's a federal piece of information that's put out from a federal agency. One of the other pieces of information is that, about a third of these accidents involve some level of distraction or fatigue. Commercial vehicle drivers are not allowed to talk on their cell phones at the time that they are operating the commercial vehicle unless they've got an earpiece or some assistive technology. They're not allowed to text, those types of things. What we find, however, is through some national studies, a lot of these accidents that involve fatalities involve some level of either fatigue or drugs and alcohol. That is not to say that 1/3 of commercial drivers operate distracted or with fatigue or with alcohol. What I'm citing is a simple study that is often cited across the country. But those things have to be evaluated in an accident scenario to determine whether or not there are more significant factors that may have contributed to the accident. So, there are hours of operation requirements. It's kind of a complicated concept, but the short of it is you got to have 10 hours of rest. And if you have 10 hours of rest, you can work driving your vehicle for 11 hours. If you've worked on duty, because sometimes you're working on duty as a commercial driver, but you're in the office. You're not actually out operating your commercial vehicle, or maybe you're loading a truck, or maybe you're loading occupants. Whatever it may be, if you've worked for 14 hours, you can't drive at all after 14 hours, even if you're within your 11 hours of driving allotment for the day, unless you have a 10-hour break. There are a whole host of very complicated rules. I would highly recommend to make sure that if you're involved in an accident with a commercial vehicle, that the case is properly evaluated to make sure that all the circumstances that contributed to the accident play into the case, and you need to get a lawyer involved to help on that.
Right at about a minute 20 remaining in the show, you've been practicing law a good while, many number of years, and you've seen a lot of these acts. This is something you've seen a lot in your career. As you leave a final thought tonight, what would you leave with our viewers relative to this topic?
Well, here's what I would leave. Commercial vehicles are complicated, and the litigation that ensues from commercial vehicles is also very complicated. There is the ability through contingency fee arrangements with lawyers on my side of the bar, on the plaintiff's side of the bar, where you have the ability to get the same good counsel and legal service on the plaintiff's side as you do on the defense side. I would highly recommend you get a lawyer involved where you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. You can get experts involved, accident reconstructionists, download equipment, etc. You can have all that handled and managed by a lawyer on my side of the bar. I'd highly recommend, at no cost to you, you have it evaluated by a lawyer.
Josh, it's always good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Thanks for the time. Josh Wright, managing partner, Hollis Wright. We appreciate him being with us, and we always appreciate you being with us as well. Thanks so much. We'll look for you next time right here on The Attorneys. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.